All right, it's that time. Let's kick things off. It's a little after 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Just a quick reminder for people already in the room and those joining us later. If you'd like to come up here and ask questions of our guests or the hosts, you can do so by requesting in the bottom left of the screen of your app on your mobile app. That is a reminder, in order to talk on this show or to be involved, you need to be on the Twitter mobile app on either iPhone or Android. Unfortunately, it doesn't work yet on the browsers, but that's just something I think they're still working on. Hopefully, they're still working on, but we'll get past that at some point. Also, when you request, we'll bring you up, and then after you ask a question, we'll drop you right down. No offense from us. We just move you down to clean things up, and then we move on, get more questions. You can always come back and ask more questions. So with that said, welcome to US Rugby Happy Hour Live. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Hour Live brings you interviews of some of the biggest names in the U.S. rugby scene. Tonight, we will be joined by U.S. Women's U23 head coach Katie Dowty and USA Women's head coach Richard Ashfield. Back on for his second appearance on this show. We didn't scare him away the first time, so that's good. Let's see if that works out again after tonight. Again, if you were listening in live on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and hopefully those feeds are working, you can leave comments or questions in those chats or join us over here on Twitter Spaces, again, on the mobile app, and you can even ask your own question of our guests live. If you are not already following us, please do so at Eagles Overseas and Rugby Morning to get updates on future shows and news about USA Rugby, Major League Rugby, and more. I'm Bill Baker of Eagles Overseas, and I cross my fingers, but I think my co-host, John Fitzpatrick from Rugby Morning, is still here. Fitzy, how's it going?
Hey, Bill, I'm doing well this evening. How's everyone?
Oh, great. So the kids are down? They're in bed?
It sounds like it now, but we'll see.
So, Fitzy, listen, I want to get right into things. I mean, both our guests are here waiting for their time slot, which I really appreciate when they get here and ready to go. But I want to run through a couple of things, especially with the women's rugby or the players over in Europe and the players actually coming back over here. I think it'd be nice to note this really quick, and we'll get on to our first guest. Just quick note, if people missed it, Maya Beiser has signed with Ealing Trailfinders, who just joined Premiership Women's Rugby, which was formerly Alliance Premier 15. So she moved over there. Good for her. Also recently capped May Sagapolo. I hope I got that name right. Signed with Leicester Tigers, joining USA teammates Tess Fury and Talia Brody. Leicester also is new to Premiership Women's Rugby. So good to see them over there still. I don't have a lot of notes on a lot of the other players yet, but I did run into Jenny Cronish at the MLR finals in Chicago, and she did share with me that she is leaving the Harlequins and will play with WPL's Beantown. And then of note, Charlie Jacoby, obviously a highly capped player for the Eagles, has left Exeter Chiefs and will play with Chicago North Shore. So I'm really excited to see maybe Chicago come through Boston or whatever the schedule is going to be in these players. Fitzy, have you been out to one of these WPL matches? Oh, I lost him. All right. Well, anyway, the great matches. So when you get out to one of these WPL matches, check it out. The teams around the country, and brilliant to watch, brilliant to support. So, all right, let's move on. Let's get on to our first guest. She's no newbie to women's rugby. Head coach at Dartmouth women's program, former USA Eagle, and now USA U23 head coach. Let's all please welcome Katie Dowty. Hey, Katie.
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
Sure.
Yeah, no worries. This whole Twitter thing, this whole Twitter Spaces thing is new and all that stuff, so it's fun. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about the 23s.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I mean, I think most people are probably familiar with you here in the New England area. I'm just north of Boston on the North Shore. Dartmouth, Beantown, Harvard years ago, that kind of stuff. But for those who are not familiar, could you give us a bit of your rugby background?
Yeah, I started playing at Harvard, like you mentioned, as an undergrad. I hadn't played before college, discovered it there, and then carried on with Beantown after school, which is where I met Richard, as he was coaching Beantown, one of the coaches at Beantown at the time. And then not too long after joining Beantown, I was one of the first contracted players for the sevens team down in Chula Vista. And then after a stint there, I did a quick stint over in Australia for a year. My sister lives over there, so I went and I played over there. That was like kind of in the precursor to the Aeon Sevens. And then when that was happening, a lot of coaching jobs were becoming full-time over here. And so my good friend Mel Denham kind of gave me the head heads up about it, told me to come back. All these opportunities were opening up, and did a brief stint with her at AIC and then Central Washington before the Dartmouth job opened up. And I've been here now for 8 years.
Wow.
And then, yeah, and on the side, I'm constantly doing age grade work for USA Rugby, which I really, really love doing. And then this summer, Richard asked me to help assist with the seniors as well the past 6 months.
Yeah, and you have that history with Richard, as you mentioned. Was it just the right fit? I mean, you've already been working with those academy level sides, coach either way. Was it something you went to him and say, listen, I'd love to take this over? Or was it just more of a conversation like he called you saying, this is a great fit for you?
Yeah, Rich is on. He could probably speak to that, but
yeah.
He gave me a ring. And I think it ended up being a great idea because I've been working so closely with this young group of players who in this World Cup cycle are really just kind of hitting their stride and ready to join the senior team. So it was a nice kind of link between the age grade programs, those players, and their transition to the senior team. So I think it was a stroke of genius, I suppose, from Richard. I'll give him
Katie, this is John. For those who don't know, who makes up the team? Like, where do the players come from? Are they mostly collegiate players?
The U23 team is comprised not exclusively of collegiate players. Like, I think the interesting thing right now is that there is a big crop of players that have played in some of these top level university programs now, and I kind of see them as the first generation that are coming out of essentially daily training environments, like as close to a professional setup as we have here in the States, where they're training daily, that they have full S&C support, athletic training, and they're on the pitch with paid full-time coaches. And we're seeing how far that's advanced their rugby at a much younger age. But at the same time, there's also a big group of players who aren't going to university, but who are either playing with senior clubs or playing with academies, who are also showing like really huge promise at a young age. And this year we made the decision with some of the really great opportunities and this time in the cycle this summer to include players in the U23 squad that also were U20 age, or in a few exceptional cases, even U18. So we truly took the players that we see as having the most potential to break into the national team in the short to medium term. And I think that's paid off, which I think we saw on the last senior tour.
Yeah. And speaking of this year's team, talking a little bit about the America's Rugby Trophy that happened. I believe it was last month, but I think I read somewhere the players averaged like 21 years of age. What is, I guess, maybe the biggest learning curve for those young players?
Brazil was an amazing experience for them. I think for some, it was kind of learning some of the more technical pieces of set piece that they're not exposed to in their at home at the age that they are. Some playing high school rugby, some still just brand new to college, and then for others, it's just like the consistency that you have to play with. Like every passage of play, you have to do your job. You can't take any breaks, pop up here and there, do something flashy, and come back a few phases later and really pick your spots. Like you really have to be dialed in at every moment of the match when you get to the higher levels. And when you play in very competitive matches, you're playing in the margins. So I think just for them to learn to be able to play in games that actually really put them under pressure, challenges them in that way, and then also challenges kind of their game management and their ability to fight through setbacks in a match and battle back, and have the confidence to do that. That was the biggest thing that I saw from them in Brazil.
Yeah, listeners, just a reminder, if you're in here live on the Twitter mobile app of Twitter Spaces, you can ask a question by requesting on the bottom left of your screen, and we'll get you up here as soon as possible. Ask your own question of our first guest, Katie Dowty, U23 head coach. Katie, again, so speaking of that tour, again, congrats on the team taking the title. The team, again, you mentioned it, they played against senior sides from Brazil and Colombia, beating Colombia. What were the goals? What kind of goals are there going into these matches? Obviously, you want to try to win these matches, but is that important, really?
No, the whole theme of that tour down in Brazil was staying in the fight. We kind of framed the whole tour as you guys are here to ultimately play in a World Cup for the USA. And if you picture the USA playing in a World Cup final, winning a World Cup, what does that team look like? What do those players look like? And then talking about the fact that, you guys are extremely talented, but no matter how good you get, our goal is to play against the other very best team in the world. And that will never be easy, no matter how good you get. So just learning how to battle, how to win the little battles and mount those throughout a game and stay in the fight throughout 80 minutes. That was the focus of the tour.
And we're seeing success in these younger players, some getting their senior caps already. And players like May signing with Leicester, like I mentioned earlier. How excited are you for these players like May to get these opportunities to play overseas?
Yeah, it's May is one of the best leaders I think I've ever worked with, and she is just so driven, and entirely self-made and just never satisfied. She's not ever going to be someone who's content to she's earned the jersey, but she's just constantly trying to get better. And to see her, and it kind of she's earned every little step along the way, from making it on the team at Central, becoming captain there, earning the Sorensen Award, becoming the captain of the 23s, earning a start on the Eagles, and now this contract over at Leicester. It's just honestly, it's what it's all about. With that sort of example, somebody who there's nobody more deserving than May when it comes to all of those things, and the potential that she has at her age is just so exciting, I think, for us.
Mm-hmm.
But even more exciting for me is the mindset that she brings to it. I call it the May mentality. She is just so hungry and humble, at the same time confident, but just never satisfied, always wanting to get better. And I think she's just a really good example for this younger generation coming up of how to approach your journey.
I'm looking forward to see those T-shirts online. The May mentality, I think it's gonna be perfect.
Yeah,
yeah. You've coached different levels. If you've seen players go on to WPL, wherever, or just have success in their careers, maybe even off the pitch. And I know as a coach, I've been coaching as well. I coached soccer for many years, and at the high school level, little college stuff. But to see some of my players go on and compete in college is such a huge, a proud moment for me as a coach. And not necessarily because of me, because of what they're doing, succeeding. So when you look at these players you've been coaching personally at Dartmouth, wherever else, and then at this side U23, I mean, the future looks great. And you got to be so proud of them, and you got to be so happy where we could be in 5, 8, 10 years.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's been kind of bittersweet watching. It's great to see the growth of the MLR, but every year there's a draft, and then some of their peers are getting drafted, and just to see those opportunities, if they want to continue to pursue sport professionally during this time of their life, that those opportunities are actually opening up for them. I think it's really special. It really means a lot to me. I'm just very in that way. But I'm also equally happy, for our players that go on and just play, if they play in a local club or they coach a local youth team or something, that they just, whatever they choose to do, that they're doing what makes them happy with the game. And that's, you can never lose that at whatever level you're aspiring to.
Right. All right. Jumping forward, the Border Battle is coming up next week. 2-match series against Canada. Here in the New England area, in the Boston area, home of the MLR champions, New England Free Jacks. First game's a week from tonight. Second game on the Sunday following.
Yes.
I'm hoping to be there, actually. Must be
Oh, nice.
must be special to play these games in your backyard. Did you have any influence over that? Did you say, "Hey, can we play that in Boston?"
um, the Free Jacks have done a lot with the local community, so I think it was really a natural fit, and I'm really grateful that they, on top of the support that we had from USA Rugby to host this one, the Free Jacks and the XB Foundation also stepped up to be sure that we could get all the players who deserve to be here without them having to pay to play. So I'm really grateful that they did that. Helps ensure that we get to put the best team out on the pitch, and and then to be able to kind of like off the back of the Free Jacks winning and everything that they've built down in Quincy, I think they're very excited and about celebrating these athletes and really exposing them to the local and the national community, and putting them up on the same pedestal that they've really built as an MLR team. And I just am really excited. They've is working for the Free Jacks now. You saw her in Chicago, and she's lead on marketing for the event. And I know that their aim is to make this kind of one of the biggest international women's events that we've held in the States to date. And
and one thing sorry, Katie.
Especially exciting. I hope for the local community. Like if you come out and see these guys now. Oh, sorry. What's that?
No, so there's a little delay between us, so I keep on jumping on you. I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Yeah.
No, you keep going.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that this generation that are young right now, this U23 age group will be the players who are the veterans on the national team by the time 2033 rolls around. So it's kind of an exciting sneak preview if you can make it out to the field or see it online to see some of these rising eagles that are probably going to be around for a very long time, and hopefully all on the fields on that home soil for the home World Cup.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that I love about these matches, and for some silly reason you don't see this as often, they're charging for tickets, and they're not expensive at all. And you know what I'm saying there? I love that they're charging for tickets because they feel like it is a draw, and it's worthy of charging tickets for. Am I making sense with that?
Oh, absolutely. That's it's deserved. They're going to put on an amazing show out there. They're so exciting to watch, and to suggest that no one would want to pay for it is false. I think they're dead on with that. Dartmouth did the same thing here. We hosted the national championship, and it wasn't free. We're a headline event. As big as any other sporting event on campus. So, to me, it's a huge sign of respect for the athletes and the teams.
Yeah, Katie. And speaking of who you'll be playing in Canada, right? I mean, everyone knows that the senior side over there is one of the top programs around the world. And then speaking of this side, is there a different approach you're taking in this game versus, say, the matches in South America? Or maybe let me try and rephrase this. Do you consider Canada to be a tougher match than, say, Brazil or Colombia?
I would expect Canada to be better at set piece and the breakdown. And so we'll kind of have to get our details right in those areas. I think the squad that we have is incredibly hard to live with at the gain line on both sides of the ball. So, as long as we are prepared to go into any match against Canada, knowing that those are some of their strengths and then how we can defray those strengths, then I think we'll be in good shape. So, I have nothing but respect for this Canadian side, and I know, after speaking with their coaches, they're coming down here like us with a few players who just played in the Pac-4 with the seniors, some who played in their top 40 senior camp. Both of us, just at this point in the World Cup cycle, our U23 groups are kind of full with players who are just breaking into the senior side and still benefit really a lot from this sort of development and exposure to international pressure. So I have a feeling that both of us are about to put up the best U23 sides that we've had.
That's great. And when does your team arrive for training? And outside of the training and matches, do you have much planned for the team? Maybe go to Mag's house and tap some of those maple trees or something?
A walk in the woods?
Yeah.
No, I'm sure we'll get a day out in the town in Boston. We haven't discussed yet what the team might want to go see. Yeah, a quick trip up to New Hampshire, get in the water or something. I'm sure would be a nice break as well. But what was the other question?
Sorry, yeah, I guess the first part was when does the team arrive for training?
Oh, they arrive Saturday. Yep, Canada is traveling tomorrow. We arrive Saturday. But obviously, a big advantage that we have is that the majority of this group did play together in Brazil, so we actually get to, we'll be able to kind of review our previous performances and build off there.
And just to remind everybody,
yeah, I feel like we're in a really good position thanks to the multiple tours.
Nice. Sorry, Katie. Again, I for some reason, this is the fun thing with Twitter Spaces. Sometimes we're all right on, like we're in the same room. Other times it's like I think I'm broadcasting from the space station, and and you're up there in Hanover.
You're definitely not a space, Bill. There's no question of that.
Okay, fine.
It's probably my reception in Hanover.
No, it's all good. So I wanted to just quickly mention again, listeners in the room, come on up here and ask a question request in the bottom left of the app, and we have Katie for another 8 minutes here, and then we have our second guest, and he's not important, so we'll stick with Katie right now. And to remind everybody,
I see Richard. Hi Lisa. Hi KJ.
There you go. Tess was in here for a minute also.
I saw Tess or Blink.
Yeah, I love when they come in, but then they leave. It makes me feel bad. Anyway, for those who didn't catch it earlier, USA U23s plays Canada next week. 2 matches in the Boston area in Quincy at Veterans Memorial Stadium, home of the Major League Rugby Free Jacks. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Major League Rugby champions, Free Jacks. If you're in the Boston area, pick up some tickets. They're cheap. There will be tailgating. There will be the festival atmosphere that they usually put on. If you're not in the area, I will permit you to watch the match on the Rugby Network, which I believe they both are on. Katie, let's look at the future here now. A little bit of the future. It seems like with the Rugby World Cup hosting duties coming up in 33, are we going to see more and more of these pathway program fixtures? I mean, is it building up from this point on?
Hope so. I mean, obviously there's a lot in flux in terms of the staffing at USA Rugby with the HP director and women's GM and Project Accelerate all sort of actively unfolding. But it's definitely become very apparent to me that, we need our up and coming players to have much more opportunity to play high pressure matches, to prepare them to play for the seniors. I think it's, with some of the performances that we saw in the Pac-4, it's quite obvious that we do have the 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds who athletically can absolutely make an impact at that level. And we need to kind of accelerate their development at this age. I think if we can do that, we would be surprised at how many of them would be able to make a difference at the senior level.
Okay, I want to switch gears just for a second and talk about Dartmouth women's rugby.
Mm-hmm.
You've been the head coach there since 2015.
Yep.
This past fall in 2022, won the third 15s championship in program's history. Congrats there. But I want to back up a bit. How did your former teammates at Harvard allow this to happen? You become a coach at Dartmouth.
Oh, that's so funny. I actually, Taylor's on the call. Taylor, are you on the call still? Taylor superimposed me in an alumni pick while we were in Canada. It was just the right time for me when this Dartmouth position came open, and Harvard wasn't open at the time. Dartmouth is kind of like rugby Camelot in a lot of ways. The pitch and the support that we have here is unbelievable, and I knew that I could really build something very special, or continue to build upon something that was already very special, and it's always felt right, to just grow where you're planted, and it's always been about the people that you're with for me, and what you're building.
And that's awesome. Did I hear that right? Did you say alumni paintball?
Alumni what?
Did you say alumni paintball?
Oh no, picture.
Oh, picture.
It was Erica Terrell and Sylvia were taking a Harvard picture, and I just made a crack. I was like, why am I never allowed in the alumni pictures? And Rick laughed and they took the picture without me. But Taylor like had me just stand alone and then superimposed me on the picture for a laugh.
Yeah, Katie, Dartmouth has always had a strong program, even prior to you, believe it or not. I played against them way back, the men's side, obviously, way back in the early 90s when I was with Keene State College.
Yeah.
And again, even then, it was just like, oh, yeah, Dartmouth, great program. And now when the women's program was elevated to D1 status the year you joined, talk about that transition. How smooth was that transition to the D1 level? And how far has it come since you began there to us now?
In a lot of ways, the transition was well, easy is not the right word, but they were in essence training, on the same scale as a varsity program. So for the athletes at the time, it wasn't a huge shift in time commitment or intensity or anything like that. I think slowly over time, as we've been able to bring in experienced rugby players into the program, like every year, the quality of play just skyrockets. I remember a few years in thinking, oh gosh, like I'm barely keeping up with the pace of play when I hop in anymore, so and it's just cool to see. And the thing that strikes me now is that every year that I think it might plateau, the following year it's just that much better. So the transition, like I said, we had all the support in the world. The players, it was player driven to elevate the program, and the school supported it. And yeah, I've been very blessed to be where I am. I would 10 out of 10 recommend varsity rugby to any athletic directors out in the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, I'm glad you jumped in there because again, I'm looking at my phone. I was like, I think she's still talking.
Oh no,
no, it's not you. I don't
on
think
here
it's you.
for a
I
split
don't. Yeah, it used to be like last year in the show. I would speak and then 5 seconds later, like, did she hear me? No, but all good. So listen, a couple more questions for you, and we'll let you go here. Let's talk. I love to learn more about the recruiting process as far as collegiate rugby goes. You're attending, these. Are you attending combines? Are you scouring YouTube videos? Is it considered insider trading if you attend like one of the U18 camps? If not, why aren't you doing that?
Gosh, NCAA coaches are allowed to coach U18 programs.
Yeah.
It's definitely just, it's certainly taboo to be there and actively recruiting for your program. That's not what that's about. It's about the players who are there. So that's not something that happens. But yeah, going around to we go to a lot of high school tournaments. I get to know the names of a lot of players throughout the country. Which is pretty cool because then whether they go to Dartmouth or somewhere else, I'm familiar with them and I can keep following their journey, and their names tend to keep popping up over the years. And then we also, we encourage all high school players. They're always asking like, how do I get college coaches to notice me? And it's definitely having film of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be, filmed with the super HD camera and clipped in a fancy way, just like, a parent or a friend on a sideline with a phone that can, capture you playing in the match, have something to go off if they haven't seen you play before. And no matter what you send them, coaches are pretty good at picking up what your point of difference might be, like what you might bring to the team on the field, and then you can speak to them about what you bring to the team.
Katie, so one last question for you here. What does the growth look like at the D1 level, the collegiate D1 level? Should we expect to see more college programs going D1 soon?
Growth.
Yeah, Katie. Yeah, I think Bill's having some issues. Yeah, I would say, because I think it seems like the women's college rugby, it's close to shedding the emerging sport status. So
yeah,
yeah, from a 30,000-foot view, what does growth look like in women's college rugby so that more women's club programs can become D1?
Yeah, the drivers for each institution are so different. From it might be Title IX motivation to provide equal opportunity for your female athletes. It might be to have a marquee.
What's going on? Hello? Hello? Check, check.